Namo Buddhaya. Welcome to another video. From today's video, I want to introduce you to another simple practice of mindfulness. Now, in an earlier video, we talked about the practice of mindfulness in breathing meditation, how to do it, when to apply it, and how to apply it. And in that video, we talked about that if you're especially focusing on mindfulness in breathing, to do that, you have to come to a seated position to practice it, to be focused in it. But in this practice that I'm going to introduce to you today, you don't need to come to a seated, specifically, you don't need to come to a seated position. You can practice this while walking, while sitting down, while lying down, and also while standing, in all four postures, right? So this is a very simple yet practical practice of mindfulness that you can add to your daily life. So what is this practice? This practice is called Iriyapada. That is the word that was given by the Buddha for this practice. So the Iriyapada, the word Iriyapada can be simply translated into English as mindfulness in all four postures. What is it? Mindfulness in all four postures, right? So let's take a look at how Buddha defines this Iriyapada meditation. The Buddha says, again, bhikkhus, when walking, a bhikkhu understands, I am walking. When standing, he understands, I am standing. When sitting, he understands, I am sitting. When lying down, he understands, I am lying down. Or he understands accordingly, however his body is disposed. Now, this is the definition that was given by the Buddha for this meditation, how to do it. What the Buddha teaches about this meditation, the Buddha says, Buddha refers to the bhikkhus. Bhikkhus are the monks, right? But this can be applied to everyone's life. The Buddha says, again, bhikkhus, when walking, a bhikkhu understands that I am walking. Now, what Buddha teaches us is that when you're walking, understand that you're walking. And then the Buddha says, when standing, he understands that I am standing. When you're standing, simply understand that you're standing. When sitting down, we have to understand you're sitting down. And while lying down, you have to understand while lying down. And then collectively, the Buddha says that in whichever the position that you're in whichever the posture that you're in, you have to understand accordingly. Now, in this explanation, Buddha refers specially to a word called understand. Now, what is the meaning of understand? How can we understand the word understand? This is the general explanation, and this is how we understand the word understand. In this explanation, what Buddha refers to as understand is that simply be aware of current posture, right? If you take a close look at how your body is placed right now, right? Right now, you may be listening to this video or listening to this audio while walking. So that means you have to understand, okay, now I am walking. And then maybe you're sitting down and listening to this video, right? Then what you have to do? You have to simply be aware of your current posture. I am sitting, right? Or maybe you're lying down on the bed and listening to this video. Then you have to understand that I am lying down, right? Or maybe you're listening to this audio while waiting for the bus, standing, right? What do you have to do? Simply be aware of the posture. But then, again, how to do it? So I introduced, in an earlier video also, I introduced you to a simple question that you can ask from yourself to be a little bit aware of yourself or practice mindfulness. What is it? You can ask from yourself, what am I doing right now? What is the question? What am I doing right now? Just ask that question from yourself right now. Then you can answer it. What am I doing right now? You can, if you become aware of your posture, then you can say, okay, I'm sitting down, right? Then you can be aware of the feelings that helps you to understand the sitting posture. right? Let's say the feelings of your buttocks, then you can feel it, right? That is how we understand that our posture. And then the feelings of your hand, the feelings of your back, right? How the body is placed. You simply be aware of it, right? So when you do that, you bring your mind that was wandering in the past or in the future simply to this present moment, right? Right now, this posture is happening. The feelings that is generated through this posture is happening right now. So all we got to do is to be aware of these feelings, right? So you can do this any time during the day, right? Let's say you're traveling by the bus, right? You're commuting by the bus to your workplace. Most of the time when people are in the bus, either they listen to something or listen to a song, or maybe they scroll in the social media. That's what they do, right? Or maybe talk with someone. But that is one of the best times that you can practice this mindfulness practice. What you can do is just close your eyes and simply be aware of the current posture. That is all you got to do, right? So this is how we practice this. Now, someone can ask a question like, is it related to mindfulness? Yes, it is. Why not? Mindfulness is all about bringing your mind from the past or the future to this present moment, this current situation, and to be more focused inwardly, right? In your inner world. So that this is a one part of practice of mindfulness. So this is called Iriyapada meditation. Okay. Now the section that I taught you is the very first step of Iriyapada. There are another few steps that you have to practice while doing this, but this is the very first step that we have to master. So whenever you're free, right, find a time during the day to practice this. Right? For an example, let's say you came home after working, you came home. What do you have to do? Just make a cup of tea and sit down on a chair, and then have the cup of tea and simply be aware of the posture. Ask from yourself, what am I doing right now? Right? What feelings that I'm experiencing? Right? What is the posture that I'm right now? When you do that, it is a simple practice of mindfulness. The more you do it, the more you will get used to it. And then the more your mind will be at the present moment. So add this little simple practice of mindfulness to your daily life and practice it. So I wish you all, may you be healthy, happy, and free from all the sufferings. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. In almost every religion, faith plays a greater role. But is it the same in Buddhism? So from this video, I want to show you the role of faith in Buddhism. Let's find out. So the Google definition of the word faith is shown like this. Faith, strong belief in the doctrines of a religion based on spiritual conviction rather than proof. Now, one might think, oh, Buddhism is not a religion, it is a philosophy. So there is no faith involved in it. But the truth is, yes, there is a role of faith in Buddhism. And in fact, it is one of the most important virtues that a practitioner must possess while practicing Buddhism. But the faith in Buddhism is fundamentally different from the official definition of this word. Now, the word that is given for the faith in Buddhism is called saddha in Pali language, or shraddha in Sanskrit language. Now, take a look at how Buddha defines shraddha. The Buddha says, and what bhikkhus is the power of faith, or saddha. Here, a noble disciple is endowed with faith. He places faith in the enlightenment of the Tathagata. Now, note that Tathagata is a word that was used to call the Buddha. The Blessed One is an arahant, perfectly enlightened, accomplished in true knowledge and conduct, fortunate, knower of the world, unsurpassed, trainer of persons to be tamed, teacher of devas and humans, the enlightened one, the Blessed One. This is called the power of faith. Now, this is the definition of saddha or shraddha or confidence or faith in Buddhism. So it is about placing one's trust upon the enlightenment and the realization of the Buddha. And it is to say, yes, the Buddha developed his mind and found the path of liberation from suffering. But what Buddha teaches us that is that you should not get stuck in mere blind faith. What Buddha teaches us that your faith must go beyond the blind faith and should be an experiential faith. The blind faith is in Buddhism is called amolika shraddha. Amolika, the word amolika gives the meaning of rootless. There is no root. That means there is no root for your faith. You mere blindly believing in something. That is called amolika shraddha. And the faith that is praised by the Buddha is called akaravati shraddha. Akaravati shraddha is a confidence that is based upon practice and self-exploration and realization. Now, when it comes to faith, people believe in things in 5 ways. The Buddha teaches us that the people believe or people have saddha upon something in 5 ways. What are these 5 ways? The first one is called saddha. That means just mere believing. Sometimes people believe just because they are born into that idea, born into the families that hold that idea or that religion. So that is mere believing. That is called saddha. And the second one is called ruchi. Ruchi means people believe in things because they like it, right? Sometimes you like certain ideas, so you just believe it. Second one is called anusava. Anusava is that you believe in something just because someone said it so. And the fourth one is akara parivitaka. It means logical thinking. People believe in things because it is logical. They don't put it into practice, but as it is, just because it is logical, they believe in it. And also the fifth one is called dittini jhanakanti. People believe in things or ideas because those ideas correlate with their point of views, their personal views. So what Buddha teaches us that is that your faith, your confidence, your shraddha must go beyond these 5. That means you should put it into practice, you should experience it, you should explore it and have the confidence upon it. It is something like this. Let's say you and I are in the darkness, a darker place, right? But you and I are far away. Now, right in front of me, there is, let's assume there is a statue right in front of me, right? But I can't see it, you can't see it, because we are in the darkness. All of a sudden, a lightning occurs, right? A lightning occurs and the whole area lights up. And within this split second, I get the chance to see the statue. But after this split second, we are totally immersed in the darkness. But now you didn't see the statue, you were far away, but I saw the statue. Let's say you're coming near me and I say to you that there is a statue in front of me, right? In front of us, there is a statue. It is like this, it is like that. Now, how I believe and how I hold the view about the statue is because I experienced it. I saw it, right? And how the other person believe in that idea is because the other person said it so, right? If you believe in that person, then you will believe it, right? So in the same way, the Buddhist faith must be an experiential, a practical experience that you experience through practice, putting it into practice. And that is how the Buddha defines Shraddha. So we need to understand that faith in Buddhism should be developed through practice and understanding and realization. Just take a look at this verse from the Buddha. The Buddha says to the Kasi Bharadwaja, the Buddha says, faith is the seed, austerity is the rain, wisdom is my yoke and plow, moral shame is the pole, mind the yoke strap, mindfulness my plowshare and God. Now Buddha similarize this faith to a seed. It's like planting a seed on a ground. Now, the faith is the seed, but what makes the ground a better ground for the seed to be planted is the austerity, the practice that we do, the wisdom, the moral shame, mind, and mindfulness. All of these are the virtues, the qualities that make the ground for a better confidence, better faith. So, faith must be put into practice. Faith should be developed through practice, right? So, understand that Buddhist idea about faith is more of an experiential faith, right? And it is more of a practical faith, that you are allowed to ask questions, right? You are allowed to remove your doubts. You are allowed to explore. And also, you should believe in something by putting those ideas into practice and realizing it. Not just because that someone said it so, or not just because that you like that idea. So what Buddha teaches us, that if someone gives you an idea, that you need to thoroughly put it into wise reflection and meditate on it, find it, explore it, and understand. And then only you should believe in it. So, therefore, understand that faith in Buddhism goes beyond mere believing to the experiential confidence. So, I hope you got some light on the topic of faith in Buddhism. So, I invite all of you to practice this path, learn the Buddha's teachings, practice mindfulness, and most importantly, let your heart guide you to the truths deeply resonates. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. If you were to choose one book for the rest of your life and to keep it with you and carry around wherever you go, what book would you choose? Well, for me, it is this book. This book has literally changed my life in many ways. And whenever I feel down, whenever I feel stressed, I take out this book and read 2 or 3 pages and I find the answer for my problem. Well, if you ask, and this book is very famous, that it is considered the handbook of Buddhists, right? Now, if you ask, what is the religious book of Christians? You can clearly say it is the Bible. What is the religious book of Muslims? You can clearly say it is Al-Quran. What is the religious book of Judaism? You can say it is Torah. What is the religious book of Hinduism? It is the Bhagavad Gita. Well, if you ask from a Buddhist, what is your religious book? Then they will say, oh, we don't have one book. We have an array of books. There are a lot of books when it comes to religious scriptures in Buddhism. But out of all these religious scriptures books, right, in Buddhism, this book is considered the handbook of all the Buddhists. So this book is none other than the Dhammapada itself, right? So Dhammapada has literally changed my life in many ways. So what is Dhammapada? Dhammapada is a set of verses that was preached by the Buddha himself. Now there are 423 verses in this collection, and it is divided into 26 chapters, each explaining different kind of topics like happiness, like violence, or loving kindness, or about the wise man, about the foolish, or about the Buddha, right? So it contains a lot of verses which explains about the life as well, right? And I would recommend that whenever you feel down, whenever you feel stressed, if you have this Dhammapada book with you, you can take it out and read 2 or 3 pages, and I'm pretty sure that you will find the answer for your problem, right? I have heard from a lot of my Hindu friends that they're using the Bhagavad Gita whenever they feel down, then whenever they feel stressed, they take this Bhagavad Gita and they read 2 or 3 pages and they find the answer for their problem. Well, for the Buddhists, in the Buddhist practice, I would highly recommend Dhammapada book to use as the handbook of every person. Dhammapada has a lot of advices and life lessons that they are wonderful. So let's take some time to read 2 or 3 verses and see how wonderful they are. In Dhammapada verse number 103, the Buddha says, "Though one may conquer 1,000 times 1,000 men in battle, yet he indeed is the noblest victor who conquers himself. So the Buddha says, no matter how much you conquer, no matter how much you battle in the battleground, the most difficult war is to conquer yourself, to win yourself. See how wonderful it is. In the next verse, the Buddha says, self-conquest is far better than the conquest of others. Not even a god, an angel, Mara or Brahma can turn into defeat the victory of such a person who is self-subdued and ever restrained in conduct. So the Dhammapada contains such kind of verses which gives you the inspiration or the motivation, the strength to build up yourself, to focus more into yourself. And also in Dhammapada verse 166, the Buddha says, let one not neglect one's own welfare for the sake of another, however great. Clearly understand one's own welfare, let one be intent upon the good. So the Buddha says, no matter what happened, first of all, you have to focus on yourself, your own welfare. If you made your own welfare, if you protect yourself, then only you can protect others and help others in the correct way, right? So it helps you to be more self-conscious, more self-focused, and to build up yourself. In verse number 290, the Buddha says, if by renouncing a lesser happiness, one may realize a greater happiness, let the wise man renounce the lesser, having regard for the greater. Now, I find this verse is so important and so inspiring, right? Because for me especially, when I'm living as a monk, sometimes I have found a little bit stressed out, like times where I feel down and stressed out. Right? Then I always think, okay, you're intending a greater happiness. You're going to achieve a greater happiness. Then you must be willing to let go of that lesser happinesses, cheaper happinesses, if you are focused on a greater happiness, right? In the same way, for the normal life, it's the same way, right? If someone is working towards a greater happiness or a greater goal in his life, then he or she has to let go of that cheaper happinesses, that daily cheaper happinesses that keeps that person away from achieving that greater happiness, right? So Dhammapada contains such valuable and inspiring life lessons, advices. So I invite all of you to take this book, buy this book, or maybe find this book and read it, right? So I will link down below all the links that you need to read this book. You may find some PDFs. You may find some online links that I will provide some online links that you can read. And also, if you are willing to buy the book, right, buy the hard book, I will link down some links for that you can buy the book online, right? So when it comes to Dhammapada, there are lots of translations. But the translations that I would recommend is, the first translation is by Venerable Acharya Buddha Rakkhita, right? This translation is very good and very precise. It contains very high level of English, but it is very precise, right? And also, there's another translation that I would highly recommend. That is the translation from my teacher, Venerable Kiribati Nyanananda Thero. In this book, you may find all the verses in the most simplest and easy to understand form, right? So if you can buy this book, and these are the two translations that I would recommend for all of you. So I invite all of you to buy or read it online or find PDFs and read these books, read this Dhammapada book, and then you will find a lot of valuable life lessons. So that is all for today. I wish you all, may you be healthy and may you live in peace. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. Welcome and welcome back to another video. Now, we all know when it comes to Buddhism and Buddhist practice, there are a lot of meditations involved, right? And sometimes some people can think, oh, Buddhism is only about meditation, right? And there has been a huge debate about Buddhism, that whether to learn Buddhism or to practice Buddhism first, right? So from this video, we're going to talk about whether we should learn Buddhism or to meditate or to do both, or what to do when it comes to Buddhist practice, right? Now, the reason why I made this video is because I found a wonderful sutra that discusses about this matter, right? In this sutra, the main character that appears in the sutra is an enlightened monk called Mahachunda. So Venerable Chunda gives this idea about whether to practice or to meditate. But before that, he explains this debate that had happened within the monks community, within these two groups of monks. So it is very clear, according to this sutra, that there has been monks in the past who only meditate, and also there were another group of monks who only learn Buddhism, like who only become intellectually learned in Buddhism, right? So there have been this huge debate between these two groups of monks, that who are the superior ones. Like the ones who are meditating has been saying that we are the superior one because we practically apply all the Buddha's teachings and we meditate and we experience it. And the other group of monks was saying, like, you don't have any kind of knowledge and intellect about Buddhism, so you don't know what the Buddha is talking about. So there has been this huge debate. And then in the sutra, Venerable Mahachunda clearly explains that neither one of them, right? Neither of these meditating monks nor these keen on Dhamma will be pleased. And they will not be practicing for the welfare and happiness of multitude, for the good of the multitude, for the welfare and the happiness of the devas and humans. So what Venerable Mahachunda explains by this is that neither of them are correct, right? And this is how we should understand about this. Then Venerable Mahachunda says that, therefore, friends, you should train yourself thus, though we ourselves are Dhamma experts, we will praise also those monks who are meditators. And why? Such outstanding persons are rare in this world, who have personal experience of deathless element, which is Nibbana. And the other monks too should train themselves thus, though we ourselves are meditators, we will praise also those monks who are Dhamma experts. And why? Such outstanding persons are rare in this world, who can, by their wisdom, clearly understand a difficult subject. So understand, when it comes to Buddhist practice, yes, we must meditate, but we also need to have a good understanding about Buddhism. To do that, we must learn. So one of the sources that we can find to learn Buddhism is by reading the Buddha's teachings, reading the direct Buddha's teachings, reading the sutras. So you can read them online. You can find some books that you can read as well. And one of the best ways to learn the Buddha's teachings, direct Buddha's teachings, is to learn it by reading. And then after that, after learning, we have to look how to apply these teachings into practical life, right? And that is where the meditation comes in. But sometimes there are these people who think that we should only learn, or sometimes there are people who says that we should only meditate, right? So when it comes to Buddhist practice, I have seen that there are three groups of people in this world. One, those who learn only. Two, those who meditate only. And three is that ones who learn and meditate and do both, right? So what are the disadvantages of learning only Buddhism? One of the biggest disadvantages of learning Buddhism only, like only learning Buddhism without practicing, is that they become detached from the practice, right? If they are focusing only about learning, they detach from the practice. And then sometimes they go on thinking about these impractical ways of doing it. And then the second is that the more people learn only, they will overanalyze stuff, right? When it comes to Buddhist teachings, there are some deep and that needs a wiser understanding about these phenomena, right? And the ideas that Buddha is talking about. But when they overanalyze it, right? There should be some sort of analyze, yes, there should be wisdom, but overanalyzing will end up in unrealistic, and they will unrealism, and they will end up in like this pointless debates, right? That should not be done when it comes to Buddhist practice. And the third one, this is a big disadvantage for someone who is practicing Buddhism. If you only focused on only learning without practicing, what happens to most of the people that I have seen is that the people end up in arrogance, right? When they have only this intelligence, or when they have this only knowledge, people will end up become arrogant about their knowledge, right? They think that, okay, I know more, so that other people are lower than me, right? They are no match for my knowledge and intelligence when it comes to Buddhism. So these are the disadvantages of only learning Buddhism. And also, there are some disadvantages with only meditating, right? Because when you don't have any kind of context or idea about practice, right? Any kind of knowledge about practice, then you will be misguided most of the time. So learning is important when it comes to meditation. So learning and meditation should be both practiced in balance, right? So one of the best ways to do this is to learn and also ask questions, right? Meet people, meet some communities who practice the Buddha's teachings, and meet monks, right? And then ask questions, how to practice this? How can I understand this? And learning and meditating, when it goes with the balance, you can practice the Buddha's teachings without any problem. So I hope you got some idea about practicing Buddhism, and I wish you a healthy and a happy life, and don't forget to prioritize your peace. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. Welcome and welcome back to another video. From today's video, we are going to answer one of the most frequently asked questions in Buddhism. Can we change our karma? Or can we change our past karma? Can we do anything about it? Now, to understand about this, first we need to understand what karma is. Now, in almost all the Indian religions, there are a lot of teachings about karma. Karma is a bigger teaching in almost all the Indian religions. In Hinduism, in Jainism, in Buddhism, there are a lot of teachings about karma. But the Buddhist approach of karma, or the Buddhist way of definition of karma, is slightly different than the other Indian religions, right? So this is how Buddha defined the karma. The Buddha says, Chetanahang bhikkhave kammang vadami. Monks, I say, intention is the karma. So when it comes to these statements from the Buddha means, what Buddha means is that karma, the action, is more of a mind-related thing. That is why the Buddha says intention is karma. So intentions are generated in our mind. So what Buddha saw is that it is not just the action, it is the intention behind the action what defines the karma. So this is the Buddhist definition of karma. Now we'll come to the question. What is it? Can we change the karma? Right? Now, first of all, we need to correct the question and then answer it. Why? Because karma, what people mean by asking, can we change karma, is that, can I change what I have done in the past, and can I change the consequences of those karma? Okay? So first we need to understand that karma, or this intention, is generated right now, right here. Right? The karma is not something that is past. Karma is something that you do right now, this present moment. Right? So this present moment, the karma can be changed. Why? Because it is always your choice. The choice is a karma. Your choice is totally under your control. Some people think that, okay, our choices and our experiences are not totally under our control. The choices that we make are predetermined, or due to the past karma, we make choices right now. But Buddha did not agree to this idea. What Buddha says is, yes, your life is affected by the past karma, but it is not the only thing that your life is affected. But you can change your karma by making good choices, by taking the right action. That is why Buddha praised a lot about the taking right action. So understand that karma happens right now, and that means the karma is totally under your control. But what people ask is that, can I change the karma? No. First you need to correct the question, can we change the consequences of our karma? Which means vipaka. Now, with the package of karma, there comes another word which is not much famous, and that is vipaka. Vipaka means the consequences of karma. So basically, what karma is, the cause and effect phenomena. That means we make causes for something and there will be an effect because of that cause. We do some actions and then we get consequences of those actions. So this is the basic understanding of karma. So can we change vipaka? It is not totally under our control. We don't know what we have done in the past. So the only thing that we can do is just to go through those experiences. Now, it is also important to remember that our life is not totally dependent on karma. Karma is only one thing that our life is affected. Okay? So let's say you're going through a consequence of your past karma. So can you do anything about that? You can't do it, because only thing that you can do is you have to face that experience. But you can change how you react to that experience, right? Whether it is good or bad, you can take right action, right choice, right now, right here, to face that in a good way. So if we take the right action and right choice right here, then we can stop the karma repeating again and again. Right? Let's say you're going through a bad experience due to a past karma, and if you react the same way, right? If you fall down, if you become angry, if you spread hate because of that pain and suffering, then you create some more suffering karma to go through some bad experiences in the future. But if you take right action and if you become wise and patient and mindful, then you can stop the karma from repeating. So in that way, you take control of your choices. So understand, basically, there is very few space for us to take control of what we have done in the past and the consequences of them, but we totally have the control that we make the choice right now, right here. So keep this beautiful advice from the Buddha in your heart and be happy. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. Welcome and welcome back to another video. Couple of weeks ago, we posted this video right here about self-love. Let's take a look at it first. Remember, the more you love yourself, the more selfless you become. Do not confuse self-love with selfishness. Namo Buddhaya. So, a lot of you have been asking in the comment section, what is the difference between self-love and selfishness? So from today's video, we're going to be discussing about how to differentiate the self-love from selfishness. Now, to understand about this, first we need to understand what is selfishness. Now, selfishness always born from the unsatisfied nature of our mind. That means we are not satisfied with ourselves, and we are not satisfied with other people. So what happens? We try to fill this unsatisfaction, fill this gap in our mind to satisfy ourselves. So what we do? We make expectations towards ourselves and towards others. And when the people around us and even ourselves are not meeting these expectations of even ourselves, what happens to us? We try to pursue and we try to chase behind these expectations and filling these expectations even more and more. And these things, these chasings, go beyond the limits. So what happens? A person becomes more selfish, only thinking about his own happiness, his own pleasure, and his own advantage. He doesn't start to think about the other people's happiness. So this is selfishness. So we need to understand that selfishness is always born from unsatisfied nature of our mind. But in the other hand, self-love is always born from compassion, understanding, and acceptance. Now, when you understand who you are and when you accept who you are, then you become more compassionate towards yourself. Then you know who you are and what you can do. Starting from that, you start to develop yourself more and more. You give a good time to heal, you give a good time to develop your inner qualities, and you become more patient toward yourself. And also, when you develop the patience, you become more patient towards other people. You all know that not every person around you can live up to 100% expectations of yourself. So we need to understand that. When you understand this, the nature of yourself and the nature of other people, then you become more compassionate. And then you become more selfless. You become more generous because you know how it feels like to go through sufferings. You also know how it feels like to go through painful periods in time. So when you do that, when you develop that patience and compassion, you become more self-loving person. Okay, so that is why we need to understand that self-love is always born from compassion, understanding, and acceptance. We don't deny who we are. We don't try to reject who we are. We become more understanding and more accepting towards ourselves. When we become more accepting towards ourselves, we become more content with who we are and become happy with who we are. And one of the greatest qualities that we develop through this is the gratitude. We become thankful for what we have in our life. We don't say that, oh, everyone needs to fulfill my expectations and I'm not going to commit anything for you. You need to fulfill all of my expectations. Those emotions won't happen when you become more self-loving person. So understand the difference between the self-love and selfishness. The Buddha said, if you love yourself, you have to guard your mind from evil things, evil thoughts like jealousy, hatred, aversion, and envy. When you guard your mind from these unwholesome thoughts, you protect yourself. And that is self-love. When you protect yourself, you protect others as well. So keep this little beautiful advice from the Buddha in your mind and be happy. Namo Buddhaya. The Buddha once said, "He who sits alone, lies down alone, walks alone, in diligent practice, and alone tames himself, should find delight in living in the forest." Living alone, being alone, can be scary for many people these days. Oftenly our society portrays a successful life, a happier life, a good life, as a life where it is surrounded by people, surrounded by things. But there's a reason why almost all the spiritual practices, almost all the spiritual pathways praise and promote this living alone, life in the place of a solitude practice, a solitude life. And that is why almost all the religious leaders had to solitude themselves from these hassles and bustles of this society and go to these quiet places and find the liberation and find what they were looking for. Same went with the Supreme Buddha. Before he became the Buddha, he was a prince. He was living in a palace. He was indulging himself with this sensual pleasure. And then he understood, indulging in this sensual pleasure doesn't help me to find what I'm looking for. So what he did was he left the palace And he went from one forest to another, meditating, finding this peace, this ultimate peace, right? So living alone can be a blessing. It is a blessing when it is converted to a blessing, right? But living alone can be a curse as well for many people. That is why people most of the time they are scary. They're afraid of living alone, right? Most of the time people come to me and say, I'm lonely, I'm living alone, I'm living by myself, but I feel so much lonely, so much negative thoughts coming into my mind. What should I do? That is what happens when you turn this loneliness into a curse. Trust me, it all depends on how you think and how you use this time. I will tell you a story. Prince Siddhartha, the Buddha, left the palace and he went to a forest. Although he went to a forest, there were 5 monks who was waiting for him to come to the forest. There were 5 monks who were helping Prince Siddhartha, the Buddha, with the meditation before his awakening. And then these 5 monks had this idea that only way to find the liberation is by giving this tortures and doing these hard meditations and harsh meditations and extreme meditations. So we call it Atta Kilamatthana Yoga, which we can translate into English as self-mortification, right? Now, Prince Siddhartha left one extreme when he left the palace. That extreme is, the Buddha described this as the extreme of sensual pleasures, indulging in the sensual pleasures. That was one extreme. And then Prince Siddhartha came to the other extreme where he practiced this self-mortification, giving these extreme and harsh meditations to the body. And then those 5 monks, they believed that this is the only way for the liberation. So Prince Siddhartha was practicing these meditations for 6 years. And finally he understood this extreme, being in this extreme, doesn't help me either. So then he found the middle path, the middle way. And that is to live a spiritual life by balancing his material and spiritual life both, right? And that is why after that decision, he decided to take some food to his body. After a long time he had taken some food to his body, he grabbed his alms bowl and went on begging alms and find some food and had it. Now all those 5 monks had a lot of expectations on Prince Siddhartha. And then they saw this incident. And then they became disappointed. They said, oh, what a disappointment. We believed him. We had a lot of expectations on him. But look what now happened. He's taking food. Maybe soon he will go back to his palace and he will live a normal life again. So the best decision is to leave him. So what happened? All these 5 monks left Prince Siddhartha. And after this alms round, he came back to the forest and he saw everyone had left. No one was there. Prince Siddhartha was alone. Then he found this perfect environment, perfect place to be focused more into himself. That was because he was all alone, right? He got the opportunity to be by himself, right? Focus more into himself. And one day he sat under the Bodhi tree and he became awakened. He became enlightened, right? So this solitude, when it is turned to, when it is used in the correct way, it can be a blessing for you, right? And the same solitude can be turned into a curse as well, right? Most of the people, they complain me about the loneliness. I always say to them, when you're lonely, your thought process generates a certain energy within you, right? And that can be negative. Now, let's say you are in this negative energy environment and a negative energy thought process. You all know in science we learn about, according to science, it says that energy cannot be produced or destroyed. Now you have your energy within you, but it is negative, right? Now you can't destroy this negative energy, right? What we are trying in this whole life is to destroy this negative energy. Well, we can't do that. The only thing that we can do is to convert this negative energy, drive this negative energy to something positive, right? So how can we drive this loneliness, this energy to something positive? One of the biggest reasons why people feel lonely is because they lack an aim, a goal to their life. If they have a goal and aim that they should work on, if they have a system that they should work on, then they don't feel that much lonely because they have something to do. They have something to engage with it, right? So this can go either, people can have either material goals or spiritual goals, but everyone must have these spiritual goals within themselves, no matter what life they are coming from, right? Because finally, there will be a time in all of our lives that we come to this lonely place. One day we have to be by ourselves with no one else around us, right? At that time, if we don't have any quality, any spiritual quality that we have practiced within us, we'll start feeling lonely again and again. And it will start to build up this negative energy within us, okay? And sometimes we can be too late for that to make it correct. So the best thing is to learn how to convert this negative energy to something positive, right? To do that, you have to have a goal and an aim for yourself, to yourself. Always ask from yourself, what should I do in my life? Who should I become in my life? What should I build up? What qualities should I work on in my life? If you found, we will always find some qualities that we should work on, right? Some mistakes that we have, some weaknesses within us. If we can work on those weaknesses and make it correct, that time will help you to be more successful, more productive, right? More happy and a more peaceful person. But to do that, what do you need? You need time, right? You need time to be focused on yourself. And what gives you the best time to be focused on yourself is the time when you are all alone, right? And that is why I always say for people, have a time during the day only for yourself, a separate time. Probably people call it me time. Okay, that's a good thing. Having a me time for yourself during the day is essential. Okay, so I would say as a practical thing, apply it to your life. That is to have a separate, at least 15 minutes. It's okay, no matter how much you spend the time, but if it is for yourself, that is helpful, right? At least spend a 15 minutes of time, right? Sitting down, being by yourself, all alone, right? Not with your mobile phones, not with your Netflix account, not with your movies or anything. Just be by yourself, right? And then learn how to be with your own thoughts, right? Then only we can be more focused to ourselves, right? So I hope you got some idea about how to convert this loneliness into the solitude. So apply this little practice to your life and enjoy the solitude in your life. Namo Buddhaya. The Buddha once said, "He who sits alone, lies down alone, walks alone, in diligent practice, and alone tames himself, should find delight in living in the forest." Living alone, being alone, can be scary for many people these days. Oftenly, our society portrays a successful life, a happier life, a good life, as a life where it is surrounded by people, surrounded by things. But there's a reason why almost all the spiritual practices, almost all the spiritual pathways praise and promote this living alone life in the place of a solitude practice, a solitude life. And that is why almost all the religious leaders had to solitude themselves from these hassles and bustles of this society and go to these quiet places and find the liberation and find what they were looking for. Same went with the Supreme Buddha. Before he became the Buddha, he was a prince. He was living in a palace. He was indulging himself with this sensual pleasure. And then he understood, indulging in this sensual pleasure doesn't help me to find what I'm looking for. So what he did was he left the palace and he went from one forest to another, meditating, finding this peace, this ultimate peace, right? So living alone can be a blessing. It is a blessing when it is converted to a blessing, right? But living alone can be a curse as well for many people. That is why people most of the time they are scary. They're afraid of living alone, right? Most of the time people come to me and say, I'm lonely, I'm living alone, I'm living by myself, but I feel so much lonely, so much negative thoughts coming into my mind. What should I do? That is what happens when you turn this loneliness into a curse. Trust me, it all depends on how you think and how you use this time. I will tell you a story. Prince Siddhartha, the Buddha, left the palace and he went to a forest. Although he went to a forest, there were 5 monks who was waiting for him to come to the forest. There were 5 monks who were helping Prince Siddhartha, the Buddha, with the meditation before his awakening. And then these 5 monks had this idea that only way to find the liberation is by giving this tortures and doing these hard meditations and harsh meditations and extreme meditations. So we call it Atta Kilamatthana Yoga, which we can translate into English as self-mortification, right? Now, Prince Siddhartha left one extreme when he left the palace. That extreme is, the Buddha described this as the extreme of sensual pleasures, indulging in the sensual pleasures. That was one extreme. And then Prince Siddhartha came to the other extreme where he practiced this self-mortification, giving these extreme and harsh meditations to the body. And then those 5 monks, they believed that this is the only way for the liberation. So Prince Siddhartha was practicing these meditations for 6 years. And finally he understood this extreme, being in this extreme, doesn't help me either. So then he found the middle path, the middle way. And that is to live a spiritual life by balancing his material and spiritual life both, right? And that is why after that decision, he decided to take some food to his body. After a long time he had taken some food to his body, he grabbed his alms bowl and went on begging alms and find some food and had it. Now all those 5 monks had a lot of expectations on Prince Siddhartha. And then they saw this incident. And then they became disappointed. They said, oh, what a disappointment. We believed him. We had a lot of expectations on him. But look what now happened. He's taking food. Maybe soon he will go back to his palace and he will live a normal life again. So the best decision is to leave him. So what happened? All these 5 monks left Prince Siddhartha. And after this alms round, he came back to the forest and he saw everyone had left. No one was there. Prince Siddhartha was alone. Then he found this perfect environment, perfect place to be focused more into himself. That was because he was all alone, right? He got the opportunity to be by himself, right? Focus more into himself. And one day, He sat under the Bodhi tree and he became awakened, he became enlightened, right? So this solitude, when it is turned to, when it is used in the correct way, it can be a blessing for you, right? And the same solitude can be turned into a curse as well, right? Most of the people, they complain me about the loneliness. I always say to them, when you're lonely, your thought process generate a certain energy within you, right? And that can be negative. Now, let's say you are in this negative energy environment and a negative energy thought process. You all know in science we learn about, according to science, it says that energy cannot be produced or destroyed. Now you have your energy within you, but it is negative, right? Now you can't destroy this negative energy, right? What we are trying in this whole life is to destroy this negative energy. Well, we can't do that. The only thing that we can do is to convert this negative energy, drive this negative energy to something positive, right? So how can we drive this loneliness, this energy to something positive? One of the biggest reasons why people feel lonely is because they lack an aim, a goal to their life. If they have a goal and aim that they should work on, if they have a system that they should work on, then they don't feel that much lonely because they have something to do. They have something to engage with it, right? So this can go either, people can have either material goals or spiritual goals, but everyone must have these spiritual goals within themselves, no matter what life they are coming from, right? Because finally, there will be a time in all of our lives that we come to this lonely place. One day we have to be by ourselves with no one else around us, right? At that time, if we don't have any quality, any spiritual quality that we have practiced within us, we'll start feeling lonely again and again. And it will start to build up this negative energy within us, okay? And sometimes we can be too late for that to make it correct. So the best thing is to learn how to convert this negative energy to something positive, right? To do that, you have to have a goal and an aim for yourself, to yourself. Always ask from yourself, what should I do in my life? Who should I become in my life? What should I build up? What qualities should I work on in my life? If you found, we will always find some qualities that we should work on, right? Some mistakes that we have, some weaknesses within us. If we can work on those weaknesses and make it correct, that time will help you to be more successful, more productive, right? More happy and a more peaceful person. But to do that, what do you need? You need time, right? You need time to be focused on yourself. And what gives you the best time to be focused on yourself is the time when you are all alone, right? And that is why I always say for people, have a time during the day only for yourself, a separate time. Probably people call it me time. Okay, that's a good thing. Having a me time for yourself during the day is essential. Okay, so I would say as a practical thing, apply it to your life. That is to have a separate, at least 15 minutes. It's okay, no matter how much you spend the time, but if it is for yourself, that is helpful, right? At least spend a 15 minutes of time, right? Sitting down, being by yourself, all alone, right? Not with your mobile phones, not with your Netflix account, not with your movies or anything. Just be by yourself, right? And then learn how to be with your own thoughts, right? Then only we can be more focused to ourselves, right? So I hope you got some idea about how to convert this loneliness into the solitude. So apply this little practice to your life and enjoy the solitude in your life. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. We all know that letting go of the anger, letting go of the resentment is not as easy as we think, right? People might say to us, let it go, forget about it, don't think about it, and what had happened, happened. But the person who is in that situation, person who is really dealing with that person or that problem, only knows how difficult it is and how painful it is to experience that. But here's the thing. If we need to be at peace, if we need to make peace with ourselves, we need to learn a way of thinking and a way of dealing with these kind of people and these kind of situations. And that is why I need to introduce you to a way of thinking that Buddha taught us to do, to deal with such people and to deal with such situations, right? The reason why I needed to make this video is that the other day I was reading this sutra and I came across this one part of this sutra, which is I find really inspiring and really valuable advice from the Buddha. So first of all, let's take a look at what Buddha has to say about this. The Buddha says, one may apply to that person the fact of ownership of karma. Let's name this way of thinking as the ownership of karma. The Buddha says, this worthy person is the owner of his actions, the heir to his actions. His actions are the womb from which he has sprung, his relations and his protection. Whatever he does, good or bad, he will be heir to that. To remove the grudge or remove the resentment of someone, the Buddha advises us to look at their karma. Now, what do you mean by karma? Karma is the action, karma is the intentional actions that we do from our body, from our speech, and from our mind, right? Now, with these intentions, we create sort of consequences. The other part of the karma is called consequences of karma, which we call in Pali vipaka, right? So with this karma, there's one part called the vipaka. That means the consequences of karma, right? So the Buddha says, whatever the karma you do with intentions, whatever the intentional actions that you do, it generates its own consequences, right? So the Buddha says that if someone does actions with his body, speech, and his mind with an impure intention or impure mind, the suffering follows that person like a cartwheel follows the ox, right? So in that case, let's say if someone is hurting you, right? If someone is hurting you and hurting your emotions, so that person is doing that intentionally, right? With that intention, he generates karma. Now, if you consider about that intention, you can clearly say that intention is not pure. It is an impure intention. So with impure intention, what generates? Impure karma. And when one generates impure karma, the suffering follows that person. So when you look at someone who is hurting you, you can think, okay, whatever they do, right now they're doing an unwholesome action, so they're going to go through the consequences of that action. And whatever I do, right, how I react to that situation, how I react to their expressions and their way of behaviors is my karma. Now, do I need to get intervened with their unwholesome actions? Do I need to collect such unwholesome actions to my life, such unwholesome karma to my life? Then you can tell to yourself, I clearly don't want that to happen to myself because I care for myself and I love myself. When you think about that, it's a great way of thinking about such people, right? So whenever you come across with a difficult customer, a rude customer, what do you have to do? Okay, you have to think, whatever the karma that they are going to collect is their own karma. And how I respond to that karma is my karma. So I choose to respond to this situation with kindness, compassion, and patience, and maturity. Most importantly, maturity is really crucial when you are dealing with such people. Okay, I always say to people that when someone is angry with you, when someone is yelling at you, be the bigger person. That means be someone who is bigger than that person's qualities, right? Be someone who has bigger patience than that person. So when you face such situations with patience and maturity, you can deal with such people in the correct way, and also you can let go of that anger and resentment with time, right? I know most of the time you will not be able to do this as quick as you want, right? Although you may need to let go of the anger quickly, it won't happen. But it's okay. Take a good time to let go of the anger by thinking like this, right? So let's say you are going through a difficult situation and someone is angry with you and you are angry with them, right? You hold on to this grudge and resentment in your mind. Then what happens to you? The more you hold on to it, who is the person who is going to get hurt? You're the person who is going to get hurt, right? Because there's a nice saying that says, it's a Buddhist saying that says that if you're angry with someone, right? If you're holding and you're hating someone, it's like holding a hot coal, right? Or red hot iron ball in your hand, and you're trying to throw it at another person to hurt that person. If you take a red hot iron ball to throw it to a person, who is the first person is getting hurt? You're the one who is getting hurt first, right? So in the same way, if you hold on to the anger, if you hold on to the resentment about someone, the first person who is going to get hurt is you. So when you understand this, and when you understand that self-care, self-love, self-compassion is important to heal, then you can let go of that anger. So this is the way to think about the person. Think in the perspective of karma, right? Whatever they do, it is their karma, and how I respond to that is my karma. So I choose to collect. I choose to collect a good karma to my life by responding to that situation with patience and maturity. So I hope this idea will help you to deal with such people in the correct way. And I wish you all, may you be healthy and may you be happy. Namo Buddhaya. We all know how difficult it feels when, after doing something or saying something, the same mind that forced us to do that action, the same mind that pushed us to do that action, turns back at us and say, why did you do that? Why did you say that? You shouldn't have done that. We spend a lot of time regretting about our past actions, the things that we have done or said in the past. It turns out 75% of people spend a significant amount of their lifetime regretting either about past or being fear about the future, right? So if you think that you're the only person who is regretting about the past actions, you're not. We all are. We all are in the same boat, right? So the Buddha realized that regretting over the past actions is one of the biggest issues when it comes to the peace of the human mind. So that is why the Buddha gives a straightforward answer for this question, how to stay away from regrets in life. The Buddha says, first, be mindful about your actions. And by doing something, if the result leads to suffering of yourself or suffering to others, stay away from doing such actions. That is the first thing to do, right? But how to put it into action? How to not to collect the things or to do things that brings regret to our life? So the Buddha gave us an amazing advice to practice this, amazing practice. Buddha describes this to his former son, Rahula. Before becoming the Buddha, he was a prince and he had a son. His name was Rahula. Later he became a monk, right? And he gave this amazing advice to Venerable Rahula. The Buddha asked from Venerable Rahula, Rahula, what do you think? What is the purpose of a mirror? Then Venerable Rahula says, the purpose of a mirror is to see the reflection, to check the reflection, sir. Then the Buddha says, in the same way, Rahula, You have to understand that before doing something or before saying something, you have to thoroughly reflect on that action. You have to ask from yourself that this action that I'm wishing to do, will it bring suffering to my life? Will it bring suffering to others' life? Am I doing this action with an unwholesome mind? If the answer is yes, then the Buddha says, by all means, you have to stay away from such actions. Because the things that we do with an unwholesome mind, the Buddha says that the end result is the suffering. So the Buddha explains this in the first verse in the Dhammapada. The Buddha says, if someone did something with an unwholesome mind, suffering follows that person like a cart wheel follows an ox, right? So what Buddha teaches us is that before doing something or before saying something, just wisely reflect on it, right? Thoroughly reflect on it. What will be the consequence of this action? Is it going to hurt myself? Is it going to hurt others? Right? And then the Buddha says, when you reflect on your actions, if you found out that the actions that you are wishing to do will bring happiness to yourself, the actions that you are going to do will bring the happiness to other people, and if you are doing this action with an wholesome mind, by all means, do that, because that brings the peace and happiness to your life. So that is where the practice of mindfulness comes into play, right? Because in mindfulness, we don't do things mindfully. What we do is we become mindful about what we do, right? We understand why we are doing what we are doing, right? Most of the time, the reason why we collect regretful actions to our life is because we don't know why we are doing what we are doing, right? So the first step is to understand what is the purpose of this action? What is the intention behind my actions? When you become mindful about the consequence of such actions, then you can make a good choice to stay away from the things that brings the regret to our life, right? So that is the first thing to do. The first thing is to be mindful and to thoroughly reflect on our actions and to stay away from the things that brings the regret to our life. That is the first step. And then the Buddha realized that as an average person, you can't reflect on each and every action that you do, right? That mindfulness is not that developed enough for each and every person. So as an average person, we all will make mistakes. We will all do wrong things. Then the Buddha gave an amazing solution for this problem, for this regret. The Buddha says, if you have done something that is regretful, do not hide it. That is what Buddha says. The Buddha says, if you have done something, if you are regretting about a past action, if you are regretting about something that you have done in the past or said in the past, first thing you have to do is you should not hide it. Find a person who can understand you. The Buddha says that reveal it to your spiritual teacher, right? Find a person who can understand you, or reveal it to your spiritual companions, right? Find a community of people who can understand you, who does not judge you, who can give a good guidance to you, and reveal it to them, right? Do not hide it. Do not conceal it. Open it up in front of wise people. Now, there are two amazing things that happens when you reveal yourself or when you confess yourself in front of wise people. What are the two things? The first thing is that it frees up your mind, right? It releases your stress and the tension and that negative energy that is building up in your mind, right? And that will lead to not to repeat this same action again and again. The problem with concealing and hiding a past mistake is that the more we hide it, the more there will be a probability for it to repeat. If you reveal it, then it frees up it releases your heart, right? And also it releases that negative energy that is building up within you. That is the first thing that happens to you. The second thing is that you will get a wonderful guidance, good guidance to overcome that action, right? You will get the help from the community around you, right? So the first thing is to not to do something that is regretful. That is the first thing to do. To do that, we need to build up the mindfulness, right? And to reflect on our actions before doing them. And the second thing is that if there are things that we are regretting about the past, we have to reveal it. You have to talk about it and let it out from your heart. So these are the two things that we have to do when it comes to regret. So the Buddha showed us that understanding the mistake as a mistake and accepting it and disciplining yourself to not to repeat it again will help you to free up your mind and bring peace and happiness to all of our minds. So that is why we all need, and it is very important for all of us to practice the mindfulness, practice the reflection on our own actions, and also to be brave enough to confess the mistakes that we have done in the past. So I hope you got some idea about this mindfulness and confession. So hope to see you in another video. See you in the next week. Namo Buddhaya.